This episode is brought to you by Visit Denver. Because Denver Restaurant Week is coming up. Presented by Superior Farms American Lamb, Denver Restaurant Week runs March 1st through the 10th. And this year, hundreds of Denver's best restaurants are participating. I'm looking at it right now. Blue Island Oyster Bar, I want to go there so bad. Aesthetically, it's beautiful. Also, I'll just eat oysters all day. Each spot is offering a multi-course meal for either $25, $35, $45, or $55. This is the perfect opportunity to explore other parts of the city or rekindle your love of a local favorite. Oh, Cuba. I don't need an excuse to go there, though. I'm not even going to bring that up with you, Paul. Never mind. Explore the menus from hundreds of participating restaurants at denverrestaurantweek.com. That's denverrestaurantweek.com.
Today on CityCast Denver, how much would I have to pay you to stop driving and start riding your bike? I'm not kidding, that is literally the city's latest climate initiative. But at the same time, they're canceling plans to plant new trees on West Colfax. So me and Bree and a special guest are trying to figure out what's going on. Plus, the mad scramble for summer camp spots is on, and our wins and fails of the week. Today is Friday, February 16th. I'm Paul Caroli, and here's what Denver's talking about. Welcome back to CityCast Denver, the home of the biggest Valentine's Day buzzkill in the country.
What?
Attorney General Phil Weiser filed a formal lawsuit attempting to block the holy matrimony of King Soopers and Safeway this week, Bree.
Oh, the Kroger-Albertsons merger.
Those two lovebirds.
I don't know. That is capitalism and love a thing that goes
hell
together.
Yeah. That's what Valentine's Day is all about, is capitalism and love. That's truly the love story of the year.
I'm with this heartbreaking. Thank you, Attorney General Phil Weiser. I also don't. I mean, we've talked to folks on the Kroger side of the situation. Maybe we should check back in.
I want to. Ever since the strike, I got so locked in on that with the King Soopers workers going on strike, and now this merger. I don't know exactly what the implications are going to be, and it's it feels like it's probably a little bit different than when it was announced. Yeah, like a year or so ago.
I'd be curious what the stakes are right now and where the union is, but
it's Friday. We're here in the 5280 Magazine studios to look back at the biggest stories of the week. You've heard her voice. Our host, Bree Davies, is here. Hey, Bree.
Hi, Paul.
Before we introduce our excellent guest today, I need help. We need help.
Oh, my God. We need so much help.
Just in general, but on this specific thing.
We've been agonizing about this topic for months.
Yeah, it's time now to open this up to you all, the listeners. There are a few new bagel shops opening in Denver very soon. And the competition was already fierce with Call Your Mother opening in Capitol Hill and Tennyson. Now there's a new one near me in Hilltop. Rosenberg's, of course, has been around for maybe 15 years. The new Zadie's.
A couple years ago.
A lot. I mean, there's Wood Grain Bagels. That's one I like.
Oh, I don't know that one.
It's a Montreal-style bagel place in Lowry.
Lord. Montreal has a bagel style, Paul.
A very important and distinct bagel style.
Okay.
We'll talk about it soon.
This is exactly why we need
you. Exactly. This is why we need help. We're looking for the biggest bagel fan in the city.
Someone that can go with us and really test these places out and figure out what the best bagel is. So if you're a bagel freak, give us a call.
Give us a call, let us know. Or if you know the biggest bagel fan in the city, tell us who that person is. Call in or text us at 720-500-5418. Please help us.
For the love of God, if you love bagels, let us know.
All right, it's time to introduce our excellent guest today. We've been so excited to have you on. Mo Graham is a visual artist, a designer, an educator, and I learned this week the artist responsible for painting Bree into a mural in Denver right now. Mo, welcome to the show.
Howdy.
What's that story? How'd that happen?
Well, gentrification gentrifies. And so it was important to me that I created a piece. I'm typically more of an abstract artist who does a lot of design work, but there was a new hotel going up in 5 Points, and it just felt important that the people who are responsible for preserving Denver's culture be highlighted in a space like that. I didn't want to create another mural that was just a cute, funky design that made people feel excited about traveling here. I just wanted to add a little bit more of a acknowledgement about where people are and where they're going, and, you know, just a little love note to my favorite ladies.
So I do want to clarify, it's not just me.
It's not just Brie.
Big glamour shot of Brie on the side of a building.
It includes
Which
other.
would also be nice.
Well, I feel better.
Yeah.
Also, this is not the reason we brought you on the show. I do want to make that clear.
It's actually, I'm only here to talk about how much I love Brie. That's the only reason why I'm on the podcast.
Transparency's sake, we are very much friends outside of the show. But it's me and Caitlin Heffernan, Susie Q. Smith. So Caitlin Heffernan, artist, activist, Susie Q. Smith, and prolific poet.
Yes.
Lady Speech, also
Lady
a
Speech.
poet who just does incredible work around the community. Our friend Karma Lee, artist and educator as well. So it's on the Catbird
Hotel.
Okay, we'll post a
And
picture.
their valet.
It's fun.
It is funky and cool. It's the other stuff too, but it is funky and cool. I saw it.
Yeah.
Anyway, artists, you know, I'm interested. You know, if anyone wants to put me on a building, you know, just saying. I'm here. I got a face.
Detour,
put me on
if
there.
you're,
I look
Paul's,
good.
if you're listening, Paul's ready.
Paul's a free agent,
I got
guys.
time.
Get 'em while you
Available for modeling for murals. Mo, before we get into our top story, are you the bagel expert we've been looking for?
No, I'm actually
Not at all.
a gluten-free human who only can sniff bagels.
Interesting. What's
Yeah,
the
so
best
I can-
smelling bagel in the city?
An everything bagel?
Yeah, that's my favorite bagel
I love
too.
to sniff it. It's just so good.
I like that you've committed to sniffing, not just like I'm gluten free, but also I'll just get into being a sniffer.
Carmine's, if you ever sniff those rolls, so good.
I was
Okay.
I was at Uncle last night across from Carmine's, and I was like, I need to go in there. It's been a while.
Yeah. Go in there just to sniff not the bagels, the rolls.
The rolls, yeah.
Yeah.
Get yourself
Wonderful
a sniff.
Italian place.
More smell content coming up on the show next week, by the way. Just a little
Yeah, because
tease.
this medium is great for smells.
Wait, well, this one is a fun one. Anyway, we got to get to our top story this week, which is, as it so frequently is, the pandemonium on our streets. This week, we got the announcement of the first major project from Denver's Climate Action, Sustainability, and Resiliency Office under Mayor Johnston. And I got to say, I think it's kind of weird. It's kind of different. They're going to be literally paying people to ride their bikes instead of driving.
I mean, it's an approach. We got to try something, is how I feel they might feel about it.
Yeah, you think?
Yeah.
It's like, does it feel like a last-ditch effort, Mo?
I don't know if it's a last-ditch effort. It is an effort, regardless. I appreciate that part of what they're doing is kind of doing a little bit of an informative moment where they're kind of teaching people about the benefits of riding bikes and some of the social but also like environmental impacts of riding bikes. And so, I mean, it's an effort.
Yeah. Are you a bike person? Are you a driver? What's your relationship with this stuff?
I really enjoy riding my bike, and I finally live in an area where biking feels a little bit more accessible.
That's the key to me here.
Yeah.
The accessibility component.
Right. And I live right off of South Broadway. And so they added the new bike lanes in, which is very, very nice.
You do like it. That's a controversial bike lane, that Broadway bike lane.
Well, in my opinion, as somebody who has to deal with the traffic because of the construction, I think once it's gone, though, and everybody settles in, I think people will really enjoy it.
I didn't know you were over on South Broadway now. This was a surprise
Yeah,
to me.
when you said uncle, I was like, oh my gosh, say hi.
I didn't know you were over there because you've always been farther sort of towards the Aurora side,
Yeah.
I think. So
Yeah.
you are really in the city now.
I'm super here.
I love that. That to me is just like the biggest part of the underlying part of this conversation is it accessible to you? Are the things that you do naturally in proximity to you enough where riding a bike would be feasible? And that's where I struggle. I love the idea, but I feel like there's only a certain group of people that will be able to take full advantage of it.
Yeah, and that was a little bit of my concern. Like, even if you just look at rent prices in the areas where it's the most accessible, the people who I think would really benefit from something like this don't actually have accessible bike lanes and biking abilities. And so I think that's where I start to raise a brow just a little bit and just say, who is this really helping and supporting? And the people who do get to do it, do they need the $200?
Yeah.
That's a really good question.
It is a good question. And the way they're rolling this program out is kind of weird too. And I think they've got this equity concern y'all are talking about on their minds, but it's hard to tell because it's still a pilot program from what I can tell. And they've dedicated $150,000 to it. So it's not that much. They're just trying something out here, but they're doing it through 3 different contractors. The Denver Streets Partnership is running it, and they're doing it one way. And then there's this other one happening on the West Corridor where Denverites I'll just read a quote here from the Denverite story. With the West Corridor program, Denverites in West and Southwest Denver must have access to a bike, know how to ride, and be at least 18 years old. And up to 400 participants can get up to $150 each for riding their bike between April and June. The program will also have lotteries and bonuses to earn extra money. So there's I don't know. I mean, that kind of sounds fun. A little gamification element here to transit.
And this is my neighborhood. So I would love to hear from folks in my neighborhood who would utilize this or are thinking about doing it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, me too. Me too. I mean, our producer, Olivia, as soon as we saw this, she signed up.
Totally. And she's already someone that's attempting to drive less by using the train and she lives in Lakewood too. She comes from downtown.
I wonder if she's going to be able to get it living in Lakewood.
Well, I don't know. That's a good question. That's the hard part. But at any rate, she's somebody that I think is the perfect test for this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. So let's just overanalyze this a little bit more. Because like I said, this is the part that I think is really interesting. This is the first new project from the Climate Office under Mayor Johnston. Mm-hmm. So the Climate Office under Hancock was led by Grace Rink, and she pioneered this e-bike rebate program that kind of took the whole country by storm.
Which has been so successful. Wildly successful.
Hugely. I know.
This made me want to bring it up.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
are you an e-bike person?
Well, I remember when all that was going on, and I had some friends who got e-bikes, and I used to, when I was working at Redline Contemporary Art Center, they have a program called REACH, which supports people dealing with a wide range of circumstances, but some of our humans dealing with housing insecurity were able to get e-bikes, and that completely transformed the way that they were able to not only maintain housing, because they were able to access different jobs, and a lot of cool things happened through that e-bike initiative.
That's awesome.
That is fantastic. I mean, I've only heard good stories about it. Honestly, it just seems like really money well spent from the city. They got the impact they were hoping for.
Well, and Paul, we rode those e-bikes.
Yeah. They're
fun.
Awesome. They're great.
They're awesome.
My wife got one. We took advantage of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how I got here today. Because, I mean, I've been lugging around this 50-pound bag full of all this dang recording equipment. And I can only bike in now on Thursdays because she has that e-bike. And we got this little saddle thing to put the gear in.
Makes a difference when you're carrying.
It's huge.
Because that's the other thing I think about is folks that are carrying a lot of stuff with them, depending on what your job is.
Yeah.
So
I don't know. I mean, getting paid $150 to ride your bike, is that also any incremental benefit? I think will help someone, but I don't know about this one. I just this feels out there to me. I don't understand it.
I mean, to me, it always just goes back to the habit, creating the habit, and teaching people how to ride safely so they feel safe. Because that's the other thing is, I think a lot of folks don't ride their bikes because they don't feel safe in the streets. You know what I mean? There isn't enough protection for cyclists, between cyclists and cars. So I would see that being, that's just the tough part that can't be addressed necessarily by a program like this. But a program like this is also just trying to entice people to get out and try it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we'll have to check in on it as it evolves over the summer, see how it goes. There's another story about the pandemonium in our streets that I really want to talk about. This is from Denver 7 this week. They reported that the Department of Transportation and Infrastructure, aka DOTI, this week canceled planned landscaping that was going to be installed on West Colfax as part of Vision Zero improvements that are ongoing right now. So there's some new medians going in, and there was going to be trees and plants and stuff, but now no trees, no plants.
It's 2024. We're not doing this. We've already talked about it. We're not planting trees anymore. It's like, how do you expect people to walk safe? It's not just about safely walking somewhere or having the space that they're going to create with this infrastructure change to make it safer for pedestrians. It has to be shaded. I mean, this is just like a no duh. And I would be very frustrated if I lived in this neighborhood. I'm not far from it because they've been working on this streetscaping plan for 6 years. They They've had stakeholder meetings. People from the community have come. They've seen the renderings. It looks gorgeous, Paul. We've seen these renderings of these types of projects. And then they're going to go, oh, sorry, no trees. What?
Yeah. Mo, what do you think about no trees?
Humans need space. And when you walk around Denver in this moment, it can look very dystopian very quickly. And so, and I think about like the environmental benefits, not only just like with building more habitats for animals and natural beings, little critters, but I think also of just how plants and these environmental changes improves human morale and mood. And just some of like the social benefits of something like a project like this. And so I'm always an advocate for the things that bring humans a little more peace and a little more calm. And there's only so many gates and concrete that you can put up before humans start to react and function in a way that doesn't offer them like a nice, calm heart.
Yeah, I totally hear you too. And I agree. I mean, obviously, just look at the city. Like the poor neighborhoods are the ones without trees. The rich neighborhoods are the ones with trees. That's where people want to live. That's what we want. But,
I think about that infrastructure difference between Cherry Creek neighborhood and my neighborhood.
Yeah.
It's so stark.
But here's the thing, though. This is Vision Zero. This is the Vision Zero budget for Dottie. And Vision Zero is a commitment and a project to reduce traffic deaths. And I think that when you're setting priorities for money like this, and I checked with Dottie, the exact figure is $2 million. That's how much the landscaping would have cost. So that's $2 million that they're now going to be able to spend on other improvements that keep people from dying. So like morale and comfort and happiness and like better air quality, those are nice things. But I feel like if I'm the city, I got to prioritize, not having my pedestrians getting killed.
But can you not do both?
$2 million. I mean, it's only, you got to put it somewhere else.
But also, like, can we not maybe pull from some other section that's like doing things that's making it easier for cars? Like, we have to look at the full budget.
Yeah.
That would be my question is like, where are we prioritizing that money? Because again, are we thinking about the long term or are we thinking about the short term? I agree. Yeah, it is about saving people's lives. But in 25 years, those trees are going to look amazing and change the whole feeling and structure of that street. I was thinking about in downtown Littleton, like the cute little part of old downtown Littleton, they had something happen with their trees. I think it might have been a disease of some kind. They had to cut down a bunch of trees. It changed the way it felt immediately as a pedestrian. And those are things that we notice. And I think you're right. Then we carry on. Mo, that attitude, then you walk in somewhere and you're all pissed because you're walking next to the highway.
You're sweating.
Yeah.
And don't get me started on like a whole like rampage about mental health. It's like you want to talk about saving deaths. These are the kinds of things that have a bigger impact than we realize. I don't want to skip ahead to some of my feelings for later chats, but I think, and my soapbox is like this dystopian world that we live in. People die from mental health and mental illness all the time. And these things that we're talking about do make a huge difference, I think, in the way that people function. So saving lives, how?
Right.
It's a harder thing to measure, I think, too.
Right. Interesting. Very interesting. And yeah, like I said, we're going to keep on this. We're going to keep watching as this stuff rolls out. One other fact from Dottie, I asked them if Mayor Johnston had signed off on this canceling the trees idea, and they say they didn't talk to him beforehand. So I don't think he had any say in this one. Maybe they should have, honestly. I wonder what he would be saying about this. I'm sure he signed off on the pay for biking situation from the climate office. But anyway, that's something to talk to him about next time we have him on the show.
Ask him.
We got to move on. One last thing, the deadline for those pay to ride your bike programs, that's February 29th. That's Leap Day, end of the month. So if you're interested in that, there's details in the show notes. Right now, we're going to take a little break, hear from some advertisers, come back, talk about summer camp.
Woohoo! This episode is brought to you by Volo Sports. Because it's time to register for a spring league today. If If you don't know Volo Sports, they've got Denver's most popular adult sports leagues, which are great if you're new to the city and looking to meet new people or make friends, or if you're just looking for a new way to get out of the house and socialize. They've got traditional sports like soccer, basketball, volleyball, and flag football, plus more non-traditional social sports like kickball, cornhole, pickleball, bocce, and bar games. Sports you can do with beer in your hand at the same time. That's what kickball started as, for sure. There's something for everyone, even if you don't consider yourself athletic. Play 7 days a week at convenient spots from Lodo, Sloan's Lake and City Park, to Cherry Creek, Highlands, Uptown, DU, Arvada, Inglewood, Golden, and more. You can sign up as a full team, a small group, or a free agent. Sign up today at volosports.com. That's VOLO sports.com.
Hey, it's Paul Caroli, executive producer with CityCast Denver. And I know it's not always easy finding your way here in Denver. When I first moved here, I didn't understand what people were talking about when they said we needed the moisture so bad. It's a very dry climate. I understand that now. And that's why the mission of CityCast Denver speaks to me. We spend all day, every day, finding the most compelling stories, the most interesting people, and the best insider recommendations so you can make the most of this city and also make this city better. Members of CityCast Denver make that possible, and we couldn't keep doing this work without you. Become a member of CityCast Denver today at membership.citycast.fm and get exclusive perks like ad-free listening, event invites, and members-only updates. That's membership.citycast.fm. Thanks. All right, and we're back. Now, you might be thinking, why talk about summer camps in February? But I bet that means you don't have kids, because I have learned this week that this is the time that parents are scrambling madly to figure out what their kids are going to be doing this summer. The wait lists are filling up, and between Mayor Johnston's budget cuts at Parks and Rec and the increasing demand for these summer camps, the scrambles matter than ever. Denver Right reported this week that Parks and Rec has canceled its Summer in the Parks program this week, leaving many parents without a good alternative. Bree, what do you say to those parents?
I'm so sorry. I mean, I think there's a reason that parents are always trying to plan ahead to figure it's essentially about childcare, because we live in a society where you have to work. And so you have to find somewhere for your kids to go. And school provides that to a certain extent during the rest of the year. Mm-hmm. This isn't a bad thing, but summer camps generally provide that during the summertime. And so for working parents to pull this out all of a sudden is like, the scrambling is real. If you, especially because these are usually more affordable programs, and summer camp can be really
from the city, you mean?
Yeah, because private summer camps can be way more expensive. Super expensive.
How expensive? I have no idea.
I mean, a couple $100 a week. And so depending on how much time your kid is there, depending on what kind of a program it is. Also, sometimes you're piecing together like 2 weeks at art camp, 2 weeks at the zoo camp. You know what I mean? And it's like a crazy schedule. And so for folks that don't have the benefit of like family that can help you out in these situations like I do, this had to be pretty jarring for parents.
I think also like a lot of times they have either, visiting artists. I think about like the college kids who are coming home and kind of depending on this income, or I think this kind of runs deep beyond just like for the parents. I think there's a lot of people who depend on summer camps for a lot of different reasons.
Yeah, the economics of it on the employment side, that's a great point. It's like, because I worked at a summer camp every summer in high school. And so, it was my summer job, but you're right. We had folks, the funny part was our summer camp also was part of the Ren Fest circuit for some reason. So
the Renaissance Festival?
I worked with a lot of whatever they're called.
That does not seem like your scene at all.
Oh, it is not. I worked with a gentleman who, in all seriousness, went by Taz.
Taz?
Yes, Taz.
Ooh,
if you're still out there, I hope you're doing great. But there was seasons when they worked at the Ren Fest, and then they would work summer camp with us. And so it is one of those seasonal employment jobs. You're out of college, or maybe you're an older person and this is like the hours and stuff work for you. It is one of those jobs.
Is that your connection to it, Mo? Is it working for one of these things, or do you remember you going to one as a kid? Or
I mean, as an educator, working with a lot of families, I think that's kind of my closest connection to this particular story. I just know a lot of working parents, who really don't have the flexibility to, work from home or, just all of the things that come with that. And I remember specifically families coming to us saying, it's May, it's April, I need to figure out what to do with the kids over the summer. Do you have any suggestions? And even summer school, a lot of a huge motivation for even just a lot of Title I schools to do summer school, not only as credit recovery, but also to support working families who need places to take the kids and to give kids something that's more stimulating. I think about kiddos who are living in low income environments. I mean, sometimes it's not the best choice to leave your kids at home all day with the freedom to do whatever with their time. The structure can be really important. And like we talked about saving lives earlier, that's one of those things that summer camps can be a really big part of preserving not only the innocence of children, but also their lives and their ability to be able to learn new skills. Sometimes I think about parents in these low income schools and families in the low income schools who are, even though they would love to be able to be emotionally available to students, don't necessarily always have the ability to be that. And so it's really the people who are working at these camps who can give these kids the space and time to express themselves and learn new skills and have that sort of social emotional connection that maybe they don't always get access to because their parents are working or their families are working 2-3 jobs to be able to make ends meet. And what we know about inflation right now is it's just bonkers and it's crazy. So
it's providing that social.
Just another one of those things.
Yeah, again, that's not necessarily as measurable as other sort of things that we look at, cost or whatever, but just emotional well-being, being around safe adults, folks that are teaching you things in the world.
Totally. So it's the impact of something like this, I think, runs a lot deeper than we might realize. And being in a capitalist society, and I don't know all of the motivations for closing this program down, but in one hand, they might be saving a couple $1,000s, but then the impact of saving that couple $1,000s is pretty massive. And you never notice until, years later, you see what ends up happening to the kids who were able to access these kinds of programs.
Well, as usual, this kind of thing, whenever there's a decrease in public spending on something, I always think, well, this seems like an opportunity for someone in the private market to come up here and start some new summer camps. I wonder why that hasn't happened. Because we've known about this issue about summer camps being the competition and the wait list being so long. Why aren't there more? Is it a space issue? Is it
it's childcare too, just like the regulations around childcare and getting yourself set up to do that. I just know from talking to my son's school, which is a very small school, the things she has to go through every couple of months just to make sure they're up to code and regulated and everything is safe. I can see where it would be well, you got to really be invested, not just I want to throw some money at a fun summer camp and hire some artists to hang out with my kids or whatever. Okay,
take my CityCast Denver summer camp folder and throw that in the trash.
You could make a podcasting. You could make a podcasting camp.
You think that'd be popular?
Oh, yeah, yes, absolutely.
Okay, we'll take that off.
Youth on Record does it. It is a thing for sure. And I went to some of these camps as a kid. I remember going to the Denver Zoo camp and some arts camps and stuff like that. And it's cool too because it's not school, but you're learning something and I don't know. It just feels the structure matters. I know the safety of structure is so important to kids. Regular schedules, meeting with the same people, being around people you feel safe with, especially adults in your life. It's a big deal.
Yeah. I was a Boys and Girls Club kid. So summertime, though, was awesome because it was you got to be all day with your friends. And then we were taking trips places. Then we were learning how to cook really cool, yummy things. And then there was a computer club. And so then, and they can be so specialized where school is such a general education thing where it's your math, your science, whatever. But then what's cool about these camps is you get to learn stuff and participate in things that you're so interested in. And this
find your passion.
Yeah. This is where our super cool engineers find their moment and have their spark. This is where the artists get their spark. And, these can be the things that transform the way that these kids become super cool adult humans.
Yeah.
This is reminding me of my one summer camp memory. I'm not a religious person, but as a kid, I went to a church camp. And I remember one night it was like a nighttime ceremony where they had all the kids, like you make a little boat, you put a little candle in the boat and you pushed it out into the water. And it was supposed to be this very sweet moment. And they were like, just sit with the boat as long as you want, just watch your boat, watch the candle as long as you want. And all the other kids were sitting there. And I was just like, absolutely not. I'm going back to my camp or going back to my cabin. I'm good.
That's fine.
This boat's cool.
Moving on.
So I guess I learned something that day. This faith stuff's not for me. Bree, help me square a circle here. We're seeing declining enrollment at DPS right now.
Yeah.
I think that means families are leaving Denver.
I think so too, because it's it's expensive to live here.
Right. So you see where I'm going with this? Like how do we see these two things happening at the same time? These huge wait lists and also fewer kids. Or maybe different kids? Maybe
different kids. I'd be curious if it means that folks are putting their kids more in private schools or something, or what it is. But that's a really good question, Paul. I mean, there are kids still here, though. My neighborhood is full of them.
So many.
Or maybe the demand for some of the camps is like also suburban, or I don't know. Maybe it's about location.
I don't know. It also makes me think about some of the school closures that happen within DPS and the way that privatized education and I don't know. It makes me just think about like maybe there's a correlation there. And Denver Journal of Education and Community did a series of articles and community conversations around school closures. And some of the students from Whittier Elementary were able to talk about their experience. And they all talked about how much they love their schools, but they noticed that all of their friends were having to move to different schools as well. And so, and I think about changing neighborhoods like 5 Points or the Whittier School is, it's like, the original population of humans no longer looks that way. And you have a lot of people moving into Denver, and then they don't necessarily enjoy the demographic of the school. And so then there is like sort of this like urge to move kids outside of the neighborhood school. So now all these neighborhood schools are like closing down,
right?
Which is, so I'm wondering,
wondering what all those, how those fit together.
Totally. Like low enrollment, but is it really low enrollment, or is it just like the population of people who are moving into those neighborhoods are not interested in those neighborhoods, so they're not interested in those neighborhood schools, so they're seeking other options.
Yeah,
totally.
I think you're onto something there. Yeah. I think it's education is like, I think it's a hard sell for some people, especially if you don't have kids. It's not so interesting, but to me, it has always been the place where you can see a city changing. You can see some of those like elemental glacial shifts that really affect how a city looks and feels. And you see them first in schools. Anyway, one last thing about this before we go on. I mentioned Mayor Johnston's budget cuts about this, and the Denverite article put that pretty much front and center on like, why, or they made a connection about the budget cuts in Parks and Rec and this particular summer camp being cut, but then clarified from Parks and Rec that this had nothing to do with the budget cuts.
I was so confused by this.
I wondered why it was even in the article. And I wonder like about the narrative around these budget cuts and like, what are we getting into here? Is this some bigger thing that we're maybe should be anticipating something about it? Bree, what do you think about that?
I don't know. It's been such a weird conversation lately. I think because Denver has done so well, and like we've been pretty flush with money.
It's been
we're not as we've been growing for a long time. We haven't been one of those cities that's losing massive population, and so now maybe we're reaching a point where we're just not as flush with cash, and we're starting to see what it looks like to be a city that doesn't have as much money accessible for public programs.
Yeah, got to make more harder choices.
Yeah,
about paying people to ride their bikes, or putting trees on West Colfax, or running summer camps for kids.
I always think about when we do these urban planning, they're called charrettes, where the community comes together and you look at all the different things we could do in this area, and everybody gets a bunch of stickers, and you go, where would you, if you could spend you're the city budget guy, where would you spend your money? And everybody puts their stickers where they want. Bike lanes, I'm thinking about that. Like, I want trees on West Colfax. I want kids to have summer camp options. But in the reality, that's not how those things get chosen. It's not by us in a community charrette. So we rely on the folks that we elect to make those decisions for us. So
Well, listeners, we want to hear from you about that too. I want to know, what are the best summer camps in the city? What are the hot ones? What are the hot ticket summer camps? Or,
And what's your experience?
Yeah.
Getting into one or not, or I just know that from swimming lessons. It took me a year and a half to get my kid in to public swimming at the rec center. So yeah, it was crazy. So I'm sure that it's just as tough for this.
Well, call in. Let us know what you think. 720-500-5418. Again, that's 720-500-5418. We're going to take another break and come back with the best way to end the week. Wins and fails. All right, and we're back. Time for our favorite way to end the week. My favorite segment, Rocky Mountain Highs and Lows, a.k.a. Wins and Fails. We've each brought a recent local something that we have observed or read or noticed or felt or I guess
pissed
that's
about?
it. Yeah, or something we're upset about, and we're going to talk about them. We're going to do fails first so we can end on the good stuff. Bree,
mine is...
you seem ready.
I'm pissed. I am.
Let's hear it.
Pissed.
Give it to us.
So this former right-wing radio host, Stephen Tubbs, was hired by a local division of the DEA, an arm of the government, the Drug Enforcement Agency, to be their PR specialist. I hesitated talking about this on the show because this gentleman is known for a lot of not great things. One of them relentlessly harassing a friend of mine to the point where she felt unsafe in her own home.
On the show, he did this harassment, right? On his platform.
He used his platform on KNUS to harass her and send people after her online to harass her as well. But I'm not going to let him scare me out of talking about how dangerous it is for someone like him to be working for the government. So he... outside of this job that he now has for the Drug Enforcement Agency, when he did have his show on KNUS, he relentlessly went after safe injection sites, which was a bill last year that would create spaces for folks to use drugs so they don't overdose and they can test their drugs and all these things that harm reduction activists have been talking about for decades on how we keep people alive. He's very against that. He's a war on drugs person. He's a pro-war on drugs person working for the DEA. But
well, it says something about the DEA, I think.
Has this approach worked, guys? Because pretty sure it hasn't. We're still losing hundreds of people every year to overdoses. But he's also, I want to quote from the Colorado Times Recorder, who's done the most reporting on this. When he had his show Beyond the Drug Issues, he mocked public health officials and political leaders who were promoting COVID vaccines. He enabled at least one caller on his show to spread misinformation about vaccines. And he defended a KNUS staffer who came under fire for making numerous social media posts in support of Nazi ideology. He was fired from KOA after he was arrested on suspicion of domestic violence. He is the man many of you may know who is behind the unhinged documentary Denver in Decay.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
Which was just a sort of a propaganda piece to villainize unhoused people who use drugs, people in the midst of mental health crises in public. And he's apparently working on another film right now that is targeting people harmed by the fentanyl crisis. And now he's a PR specialist working for our government. And just a reminder,
odd.
PR people are the connectors between like a government agency in this case and the media, right? He will...
So like if we wanted to interview the head of the local DEA office, we would have to go through
We go
Mr.
through Stephen
Tubbs.
Tubbs, who has also referred to Denver media as, quote, lazy and not doing their job. So I am blown away that the DEA has hired this person, and I'm just beyond frustrated as a person that cares about people that use drugs.
Wow.
This is not the guy.
That's quite a fail, Bree.
I know. I'm sorry to make it so heavy so quick.
No, that's cool.
That's okay.
Mo, do you ever listen to KNUS?
No.
Yeah, me neither.
Oh.
I do not.
All right, let's leave it there. Let's move on. Mo, you want to give us your fail?
I noticed that an encampment off of 20th and I think that is Champa, right next to the U.S. Post Office. Mm-hmm. There was an encampment there, and then that had got swept. But I think what has also been driving me crazy is the way that they are replaced with fences, and in this particular case, boulders. And we keep seeing them everywhere. So we won't plant trees, but we'll put boulders. and these disgusting fences. And I think there's supposed to be we're supposed to be giving them gold stars for giving them temporary housing for 30 days or something like that. And so I think we're supposed to give gold stars for that. But I don't think it's actually helping anything. And I am really struggling with these Band-Aids. And it's cold outside, so it's better that people have access to warm spaces to sleep and all of that. But it's specifically the boulders that are driving me crazy, because our city used to be so beautiful. It used to be such a gorgeous city. And right now it looks like a dystopian apocalyptic movie.
Yeah, like, is this a better option?
Is this better? Is it really doing anything by telling people they can't sleep there? Right off of like 24th and Arapahoe, people have just found ways to work around the boulders and still be able to sleep on the boulders. And so, but homeless populations are going up in insane amounts. It's really cold right now, so people are dying every single night. And I'm just like, it's just really breaking my heart, because I feel like people can only yell so loud until actual helpful things are done. So your rant also drives me crazy, because what people don't understand too, and I learned this during a harm reduction training, part of the reason that drug use goes up in the wintertime is so that people can keep moving, because if they stay still and they go to sleep, they could freeze to death. Because your body temperature drops also when you sleep.
We talked to a doctor about this, and he was like, it's a double-edged sword too, kind of, though, because some drugs drop your body temperature. So it's like some folks are using some drugs because of that, and then other times it's even making it more dangerous for them to be outside using drugs.
Yeah, it's just like this crazy cycle, and I don't know. And so I saw that the encampment had closed, and then I saw that they replaced it with boulders.
The
and
boulders
it just
really bothers me.
Hostile architecture is the
I
term
was wondering,
for this.
does this count as hostile architecture?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Because when I think about hostile architecture, I think about the built-in things like benches that have handles in the middle of them so you can't lay down, or the spikes that they put up so skateboarders can't skateboard on something. But a boulder being put in place of something is hostile architecture too.
My favorite hostile architecture in the city. I don't know if it's my favorite. You know what? It is my favorite.
It's your favorite?
Yeah, it's my favorite. There's a building on the 16th Street Mall that has speakers that are playing classical music 24/7. I think that's supposed to be. I think it's a deterrent.
That's like art abuse. I don't love that. I understand
Having a bad
what
day,
they're doing. Yeah,
listen to Beethoven.
Really loud so you can't sleep is really the point.
That part I don't like. But for me, a classical music fan.
But I just want to say, we talk about the state of downtown all the time, Paul, and we talk about what makes it attractive and what doesn't to bring people downtown, and maybe boulders are not inviting.
Yeah, boulders ain't it. Boulders ain't it.
It's not doing it.
Mo, you've mentioned this apocalyptic vibe a few times.
Because it's driving me crazy, Paul.
It seems like it is. I hear you on that.
It's hurting my heart.
But I think there's parts of the city that are beautiful. Where do you like? Where do you think is nice? You know, with your artist's eye, what's the part of the city that's pretty to you?
I really enjoy the Platte River right near REI and all of that stuff. There's a cool little think spot underneath of a bridge in that area that I really enjoy. So I don't want to say that there aren't beautiful things, but if you just, between the boulders and just like they're closing off the Civic Center Park with the fences, there's just like,
it's a lot of messaging that says no.
Yes, it's a lot of messaging. When Denver used to be a place where you were supposed to just like, you're supposed to skip and frolic. And it was a place where you could wear your socks and your Birkenstocks and, like do cartwatles. And now
you came all the way from California for that, didn't you?
I did.
I heard there was frolicking here.
Yeah, that's what I said when I got out the car.
Think you're part of the thing that makes it beautiful, which is the murals part and the creating things that entice people to stay in a place.
Yeah, nothing says enjoy my mural like a silver fence that goes in front of it. That's really how you honor the art, for sure.
I'm going to have to go find this spot in your REI later today. I've got my semi-annual trip to REI planned to buy a water bottle coming up.
I love that part of the city. It's so beautiful. There's grass. There's just like, you see people hanging out. It's just,
it's the best people watching. It is springtime right there. And like, I like to just like watch the couples and their dogs. Like,
there are a lot of couples with dogs.
It's just, I don't know. It's just so cute.
Paul, do you
Yeah, I got to
have a
fail.
fail?
I got to fail. I'm going to stretch a little bit further outside of the city to Colorado Springs, and specifically a story I saw in the Colorado Springs Gazette. Colorado College is a small liberal arts school in the Springs, and the president, who is the first woman of color to lead Colorado College, she's Black and Korean. Her name is Elle Song Richardson, and she recently announced that she will be resigning after this semester, after only 3 years in her post, which is very unusual. Because, as she wrote, my legal and academic career has focused on the pursuit of equity and fairness. As our national dialogue around these topics continues to intensify, I find myself increasingly torn between my desire to pursue that work as an academic with the freedom to fully engage in these debates, express my personal views, and challenge the status quo, and my responsibilities to Colorado College as president. So, obviously, we don't know all the details here. I would love to talk to her about this and hear about what was happening inside the administration of this university that has been such a pillar of, our academic community here in Colorado. But to me, this is a fail because she didn't feel comfortable being herself, being her true self, and doing this job. And I feel like that says something about Colorado College. If you want to be this liberal arts school, like what are you doing wrong?
Yeah.
But also, there's a national conversation about this going on. So it's like, I don't know, it's like kind of a half-hearted fail too, where I'd like to know more, and I'm sad that she's leaving.
I just imagine she's exhausted.
After the last 3 years? Yeah, that sounds
Yeah. Right. Being in that position, being a woman of color, the national conversation that is happening around, what was the ousted president?
Claudine Gay at Harvard.
At Harvard, after this like weird right-wingy attack of her character and just like false claims about things that she had done. It was just like so out there. And I feel the exhaustion for folks like this. Like, are we making things better, structural changes, or are we just installing people and saying, look at what we did? Here's our DEI move.
Yeah.
And she has to live that and be the run the school and that's a lot.
It's a lot. And then having to be an ambassador for an institution that is committed to checking boxes and not actually like thinking critically about the fabric of how they function.
She might be an indicator of that.
Yeah.
A little struggle.
It's difficult too, because these campuses are, it's supposed to be a bastion of like free speech and like free ideas. And I love that about college. That was a great part of my college experience. But there's something that's happening where like that doesn't work for everybody, I think, now. Where like people's values are changing around that.
I'm hoping she can be candid enough to talk about what happened or how she got to that decision. Well, because I would love to hear more.
Hopefully when the dust settles.
Yeah.
We'll get the tell-all.
We will be working on that. But she says she's going back to her faculty position at UC Irvine at the end of the semester. So maybe we'll get a chance. Maybe we won't.
Go Anteaters.
Oh, yeah? Is that their
that's
mascot?
where my little sister goes. Shout out to Ava and Kinsey.
Oh,
I
nice.
know. They're Anteaters freshman year.
That's really cute.
Yeah.
That is cute.
Good for them. I'm happy for them.
Yeah. All right, let's go to wins. And I'm going to start because I got a really short one.
Okay.
The bus.
The bus.
My win goes to the bus. I've been riding the bus the last month or so. I haven't talked about it.
Look at you, Paul.
I know.
You haven't talked about it.
I'm signaling some virtue right now. I'm a bus guy. But I had to take my car into the shop a month ago, and I had to ride the bus one day, and it was like, this is fine. Why am I not doing this more? I used the app. The app is good. I could plan my trip.
What do you take? Like, say, okay, do you take it to Westward?
You doxing me right now? I'm not telling you my bus line.
Okay.
But
right, fine.
I'm using it on Mondays to go to Westward.
Okay.
And it's good. It does take me as long to walk to the station as it would to drive to my destination.
I know. I was just thinking. I was like, Paul, I grew up in your neighborhood. It's pretty easy to drive.
Yeah. From
your neighborhood to 13th and Lincoln.
Yeah.
But good for you.
It's worth it to me. I'm enjoying it.
Changing habits.
Yeah.
Good job. That's
nice. It also means I have more time for podcasts now. So I know CityCast listeners have really good taste. So send me some recs.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I'm a little bit out of the game.
What they're listening to, what you guys are listening to.
Mo, do you want to give us a win?
Alchemy Ritual got their new shop spot. Apparently it happened a year ago, but I found this out this week.
Okay. What is this place? I don't know. The Alchemy Ritual?
Oh, it's so good.
It's so good. It's a place for all of the spiritual goodies that you could possibly need.
I'm just laughing because this is not Paul's bag at all.
Is this like witchy stuff?
Yes.
Yeah.
Crystals?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Yes.
But then also like the good, like your teas, your incense, like stuff that's good for your belly and for your soul. But they have their new building and I found out, it's not a building, it's a new location.
Yeah.
And they have a workshop space and they started doing workshops. And I just think that that's really awesome. And
They've really created a cool community around their store.
they really have.
Yeah.
And it's just such a cute little spot. And the lighting is beautiful and the plants are thriving. It's so
It's
good.
enjoyable to be in there.
It is. It really, and it smells good. If you just want a good sensory moment, just go smell and touch things in there.
A couple of smell recommendations on the show today.
I know.
like that.
Apocalypse and sniffing things. That's all I got for you, Paul.
Where's the location? Where's this new spot?
27th and Arapahoe.
Very cool.
yeah, right
Very
down here.
Yeah.
All right, Bree, give us your win.
I enjoyed this profile of the Stanley Hotel deal in Westward this week from
yeah.
Katie Cheshire. I loved the layout of the situation that she did. So the Stanley Hotel was sold to a nonprofit. It's kind of complicated where the money's coming from, but at any rate, the idea was to be able to do upgrades to the hotel, expand it, build a film center because there's, the Stanley Film Festival.
Such a good idea.
Oh, it's
I hope
such
they
a
can
genius
finally
idea.
do it.
But they're partnering also with this nonprofit that works on cryogenic freezing stuff of bodies
Oh,
to talk, because they brought Frozen Dead Guy Days there from
Right.
Netherlands, because the festival was so successful and Netherlands didn't have the infrastructure as a city to support it. And Estes was like, we do. And I think this was the gentleman that owned the Stanley for the last 25 years. This was his idea. But just like making these really cool connections to find funding, to expand something that's really cool. Estes Park's already one of my favorite spots. I just can only imagine this is going to get better and better. But the profile that Katie did in Westward it made me so excited just learning about this way that the Stanley is going to be run. And I would just recommend reading it. It's fun. It's a fun read. It made me excited about Mountain Town again in a way that feels still accessible to people. I loved it.
yeah. I think the Stanley as like a destination for horror movies.
It's
what
genius.
a smart
It
branding
is
move.
I'm
course you
so
do
glad
that.
they leaned into it.
Yes.
And now they're building a state-of-the-art facility to watch those movies.
Hell
So
yeah. Good.
I am not a horror person at all. I don't like being scared. I actually hate it. Don't like haunted things at all, but I do enjoy the Stanley Hotel.
Mo, how about you? The Stanley? Is this a thing for you?
The Stanley is always one of those things that I have watched other humans enjoy.
You should come.
I
Oh,
need to
man.
go.
You need to go. You would love it.
I need to go. It's one of those things that I always think about, but then never do.
And the downtown Estes is so cute. They have their little strip, their little downtown. It's perfect. But I just love the story. I loved learning about the backstory of what this is going to look like. It's not just like another hotel chain takes it over. It's not like a Marriott now. It's a little bit different. And there was state funding involved. It's really interesting.
Yeah, tourism.
Go.
I saw.
Go Colorado.
Cool. Well, here we are at the end of the show. Mo, we're going to give you a little space to do some plugs because we know you have a cool panel coming up at one of my favorite museums, the Kirkland. Very soon. Tell us about this panel.
Yeah, I will be leading a panel for a panel discussion about Bob Ragland at the Kirkland Hotel through historic Denver. And so that will be really fun. And then in March, I have, and for people who don't know who Bob Ragland is, he is sort of the grandfather of artists in Denver. He's everybody's mentor. He is the most polite harasser in the world. He's just got he had such a huge personality, and his big thing was that artists shouldn't starve. And so he would make sure that we all received his mail and that we all received his conversation, and he would reach out to all of us to make sure that we had guidance and support in becoming working professional artists. I'll be moderating that conversation, which I feel really excited about.
Sounds fantastic.
yeah.
I don't know anything about this person.
Oh man, he was so cool. The letters that you mentioned, I've seen some of the letters he sent to friends and relatives, and they're just these beautiful illustrated, they're wild pieces of art on their own, but they're also like him talking to you and just like being a booster of other artists and showing folks how to live, make a living.
Yeah, make
Very
a
cool.
living, do
Very
your
cool.
thing.
That's cool.
Fantastic. Well, we'll have a link to that event in the show notes. Mo, thank you so much for joining us today. This was so much fun.
Thank you for having me. I enjoy you too. This was great.
Thanks for being here.
That's all for today here on CityCast Denver. Our producers this week were me, Paul Caroli, and Olivia Jewel Love. Peyton Garcia writes our morning newsletter, Hey Denver. Bree Davies is our host. Our music is by Los Mocochetes, with additional mixing by Tyler Lindgren. If you haven't already, subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. Follow us on Instagram at CityCast Denver, and tell the biggest bagel fan you know about us the next time you see him. You can sign up for that daily newsletter and learn more about us at denver.citycast.fm. See you next week. Oh, we're off on Monday for President's Day. We should say that. We're off on Monday for President's Day. See you on Tuesday.